This is a video demonstration of List Persist app for iTech 4550. You'll notice on the phone emulator to the left, this is our starter file given to us by Dr. Lutz. If we pause the screen, see how visits 1 and the last visit to 2020 displayed. We can resume it and the same values remain because they've been hard-coded into that program. Our assignment was to create modified modify the code so that the lists will persist and the data stored in those references for the last visits persists every time the program is stopped or paused and then resumes by adding an on pause and on resume method to the new code. So we'll go over here to Android Studio and we'll run it on the Pixel C, run the new modified code on the Pixel 4a, and as these apps install onto the emulators, we can now go over and test the functionality of the new code. So at the bottom, the default value is shown here on the UI, a value of 0 and no last visit at the top. If we pause the app, those values should change. Here there's a timestamp that shows the time of the visit, and our total visits is incremented by 1. So every time the app pauses and resumes through the use of shared preferences in those methods, we're able to call that information back to the UI. We can populate our master list randomly from a list of about 170,000 words. We can remove from the top. We can add more. We're able to clear the list. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words. Haciendados is the last word. We can kill the app with this floating action button, restart it, and that list should persist. And there's the same 5 values displayed. We can click on a word, and that'll open up a second activity on the phone, which allows you to hear the pronunciation, and someday we'll add a dictionary definitions here. So you see how the list persists, the visits increment by 1. Likewise on the tablet here, we can populate the list, no last visit, no total visits. We can pause it and resume, and the data will change, the list will persist. And what I'd like to do now is to take your attention over to my Android Studio. What we're going to do is locate the path of the ADB executable file. So that should be located in app data, local, Android, SDK, platform tools. Now you'll see here, and if you follow this path, you'll see our ADB executable is here, so that'll gain us access to the emulator. And so what I'd like to do is to use that function to make sure. First, let me close a couple emulators, and then we'll use that executable to tap into the database, but first let's root it. Alright, let's try that again. I guess we still have a emulator running. Close that. ADB root, and then we'll go to ADB shell, which will gain us administrator permissions, and just follow a path that's located here in the device file explorer. Now these are all the files on the device itself. So we'll go to from data, follow that path all the way down to our app, the location where our app is. So data edu.ggc.luts.list persist solution. Let's just copy that. Change directories here. Alright, so now we can run a long list of what's in there. So you'll see databases. So let's change to databases. And then we can do another long list to view what's in there. And here is our database, word list persist. What I like to do now is use the SQLite 3 tool to access that database and give us the ability to read and write to it. So let's view what tables we have. Then we have two tables, the Android metadata and the word list. So what we want to do is to look into word list. So if we hit select all from word list, it should show us the values shown on the emulator there. If we want to run other SQL commands, if we want to insert into word list something by the value of our primary key, which is called content in the code, which is saved as a string value as an ID, primary key, and something with the values of Trainwreck. We can then look at the contents. We'll select all from word list, and that value Trainwreck should have been added to our word list on database. So there it is, Trainwreck. You can also delete it by using a delete command. And then if we select all again, Trainwreck should have been removed from our word list, our persisted word list. And you'll see, yep, Trainwreck is no longer there. And let's check the specifications on this assignment. So I've demonstrated that the app writes the master list to the SQL properly, and we've tested that through our terminal. It reads persisted list from SQL onto the UI properly. It writes visit counter and last visit timestamp to the shared prefs properly in the on pause and on resume methods. and it writes it, it reads it, and it also demonstrates, this video demonstrates the usage of SQLite 3 to query the database. I hope you have enjoyed this demonstration.